Welcome back to the Big Blue Lifers podcast. I'm Mr. Yu. That's Jess. We're here to talk all things New York Football Giants. We got the unenviable task tonight of, of reviewing week 2 and trying to preview week 3. I personally don't know how it's going to get done. There's too many emotions and too much stuff at work. But, however, maybe we can find a silver lining in all that we saw last week. I tried my best to do that all throughout the whole weekend. But here we are. Jess, brother, how you doing, man?
Been better. That one, I don't know which one really hurt worse, I guess. I mean, at least this one was fun to watch. You know, we got the light show. We got, Russ turning back the clock like 10 years. And we still couldn't get it done. So
I can answer the question for myself. It's week 1 because I thought that we, even in our state, I think we were still able to match what they were doing. I know the week before we had a little preview. We talked about all the guys were out for the Commanders. I still feel like, you know what? That game was one of those games that was winnable for us, even in our weakened state. So that would hurt worse than this one.
Oh, you are speaking my language here. That game was both of these games were winnable. Week 1, it was, Washington was trying to hand it to us. And in this one, I'm just going to say it, we beat ourselves in week 2. Dallas gets credit for doing what needed to be done, but we beat ourselves. Those first couple of drives where we would get all the way into the red zone and then all of a sudden the offense just stopped functioning. We had, what was it? Like 14 penalties, well over 100 yards. I think it was closer to
I wrote that down somewhere. I don't know where it's. I wrote that down someplace. Yeah, it was 14 for 106.
It's 14 160. Dallas had 106. Dallas had 12 for 106.
You sure we had 160 yards?
Yep, 14 penalties, 160 yards, and that's not even counting for all of the penalties that were offset by Dallas or declined by Dallas. We had Dan Duggan reported it like well over 200 yards of field position switch just on our penalties.
Absolutely nightmarish. And still, with all that being said, and the stuff we haven't gotten into yet, week 1 still hurt worse than this. Because I saw what I thought we had the potential to do. That's what I saw this week. We're going to get into the details and stuff. I don't know how we're going to not sound like a hodgepodge podcast tonight because there's so many little things to jump back and forth on. This could be crazy. But I saw what our team could have been. And we saw that play out. And honestly, and a lot of folks are like, hey, it's Shane Bowen's fault. It's all him. We can talk about that, but it's just the little things, man. Even the penalties by Hudson. It's the little things, man. You can't beat the best in your division by giving up that kind of penalty yardage, man. You just can't do
it. It's one of those things where as a fan of football, no matter how hard the Giants make it to be to actually love this game, I do consider myself a fan of the game of football. And I don't like when people blame the refs for things. But 26 accepted penalties. Again, this isn't taking into account how many more were offset or penalties that were declined. Between the two teams, there were 26 penalties. And I'm saying for both teams, there were a lot of calls that were bogus.
Both.
For both teams. They made, like, there's the taunting rule stuff that helped the Giants. Like, just again, as much as I am a Giants fan, I don't want to be unfair and biased, even when it comes to the Cowboys, who I hate. But at the very end there, I don't believe that was a offensive pass interference on George Pickens. I think that was an incredibly weak call. I don't think that CeeDee Lamb, for as much of polite, not, a more PC way of putting it, much of a twerp he was being when he was mocking Banks, sitting on his butt, pointing at him, doing all of that stuff. I think it's a very soft, taunting call that the league has said that they're going to crack down on. But at this point, they just don't want the players to have personalities, it feels like. And there were several other calls throughout the night with various things where, for both teams, like a pass interference was called, but it's the guy's hand fighting, so all this stuff like that. And then the Giants fan in me is like, they call all of these calls, and then you go and you rewatch just Abdul Carter's plays, and how many plays is he beating the guy, and they're clearly holding him. And this was the case last week too. There were so many holding calls that weren't called. You go to the Hudson, the ridiculous one that everyone's mocking him for, and they were talking about this on Bobby Skinner's podcast, and I've heard other people mention this too. When Hudson hit the Cowboys player in the head, that was clearly unintentional. He didn't just go to head bash him, even though Hudson is a head case. He was clearly going for a club move to knock the guy off his feet where you hit him in the shoulder, and the guy slips. So his hand just flies into the helmet. And even then, it wasn't like it was a, really solid hit. He kind of almost barely grazed the guy, and it looked ridiculous. It looked far worse than I think it actually was. But, there's all those things, that factor in. But at the end of the day, how many false starts? How many offsides? How many holding calls did we have? How many actual legitimate PIs did we have? It was so many, we beat ourselves. But I do want out there that I do think this was a game the refs kind of took into their own hands. Like, those should have been Malik Neighbors' game-winning touchdown. He was face masked as he was going for the ball, and they don't call that one. But they'll call an unnecessary roughness on Drew Phillips for going through the whistle like you are taught to do. Roy Robertson Harris does a literal textbook hit of the quarterback on a pass that was completed anyways, and they call him for an unnecessary roughness to the point where the announcers in the box, and they went to the rules official in New York, and the guy was like, I don't know what else he could have done. At this point, you just don't hit the quarterback. Like, it was ridiculous. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I hear everything you're saying, but this little space right here, I don't want to be in this. Because if we're talking about the referees doing stuff that costs us the game, I can't be in that space. That's not going to work for me, because I watched too many years of ineptitude. I watched too many years of not playing sound football, not sound tackling, which was vastly improved this week. Russ's game vastly improved this week. His deep balls, they're calling them moon balls. Call them what you want. They were on target and they were accurate. Vastly improved play, even on areas of the defense, despite the situation that they were put in with allowing a guy who got a crane for a leg to kick 60-yard field goals. Like, you just can't put yourself in that position. And for me, I saw what you're talking about. I saw every single play you're talking about. And I saw the referees missed it on both sides. This was stuff I'm like, wow. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a recipient of this referee's blunder. I'm still saying, wow, they call that?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the kind of fan I am. I can't ignore the fact that, something's working in our favor too. But this is the kind of thing, man, where you got to take it out of referees' hands. It shouldn't have been in their hands to decide anything like this. They didn't really decide this game. Those two field goal situations, that kind of decided. Not even Hudson. With the other three blunders outside of the fourth one that we're talking about, that we agree the guy slipped, ain't on him. But it's still 4-1 drive. You killed the drive. And then, and we're punting. Or we're still in for a field goal instead of a touchdown. And it's like, this is not, we can't use this excuse anymore. Even if the referees are doing things, we can't say, this is their fault. We lost this game, because I see it in some of the comment sections. We can't pull out stuff. We can't say the referees stole this from us. No, that's not what happened. We gave this away. We gave it away on so many levels. I mean, I got people who told me that they watched the end of the fourth quarter and turned the TV off because it was academic. They knew the Giants already won that thing. Tell you the truth, I had the remote. I had this same remote right here in my hand too. I'm like, you know what? I think we're good. We're going 1-1. Hallelujah. But something will let me turn that thing off. And I see what the something was now. Because look what happened. We let these boys come down here and drive with a guy who can kick field goals and does a great job at it. And we gave them a shot to come back here and win this game. That's what they did. So it's not a rest thing, man. There's so much stuff to talk about. I know people want to, basically have Russ shipped out after week 1. I can't say I felt exactly that way. I was looking for 2 more weeks at least to see what he would do. I think he redeemed himself. I think Doc's in a good spot to be sitting back and watching this and learning. I don't think he needs to be out here in week 3 after what we saw in week 2, even though it was an L for us. But, man, when you're playing your division rivals, man, you can't give them an opportunity to come back into the games and win games. And I don't know who to pass the blame to, man. There's a lot of things that happened. I'm hearing Shane Bowen's name a lot. Soft defensive schemes are what I'm hearing a number of. And you know what? They're not wrong about that. The way that he's been scheming up the defense, it hasn't been great. But how do you not blame Dave Ball for some of that? Because who brought him in here? Under what premise? That he was going to bring a certain level of prowess and an efficiency rate in certain areas, specifically in the red zone. And we have probably one of the lowest ones, the lowest efficiency rate in that regard, along with another stat we had to go back and find. But these are 2 things that Shane Bowen was going to come in and fix. And they're almost near the bottom of the entire league. So I hear the ref thing. I saw calls on both sides. They were inconsistent, but it felt more like 50-50 to me. So what do you do when that happens? You got to play smart football and be wise and play the game right. And for the most part, the Giants did a fantastic job. I can't say that they didn't. They didn't suck. I mean, they were throwing the ball and moving. I'm like, wow, this is the same team you've been watching for a year and change now. They look fantastic in certain regards. So I'm encouraged by that. But however, we go in 0-2. There's a stat about our I'll say this now. I'll let you go ahead and jump into this. So here's where the whole perspective kind of, I'm trying to keep a silver lining about this because they aired the ball out and they played the way we want them to play. They were pressuring Dak. They did the thing that we want them to do with this kind of defense. But here's the skinny. The Giants lost 9 straight to the Cowboys. Dak hasn't lost to the Giants in 9 years. Since 2016. The Giants are 0-2 for the 7th consecutive time in 9 seasons. That kind of stuff is like we can't blame the rest for this. This is the problem. I don't know who to blame for this or how we fix it. Maybe we'll find some resolutions throughout the course of this podcast for as long as we're on, but rough game to watch because it looked so good. We looked like we were improved. We had some attitude about us. We came out here with a fight, with a chip on our shoulder, and came up short.
Yeah, for me, the blame first falls on Bowen, and then second falls on Dable. And then kind of third, and in maybe some ways number 1, it's weird, is just Mara. Because, well, there is logic here.
I'm waiting to hear it.
When last year, when we brought in Bowen, he was not the first choice. That is it's pretty well documented. Bowen was not the first choice.
And nor should he be.
And
keep going.
Nor should he have been. But with the falling out that Dable and Wink Martindale had, we needed a DC, but none of the guys that we were really looking at wanted to come here for probably a variety of reasons. Mixture of Maybe they don't want to work with Dable. Maybe he is just too much of a fiery personality, and the way that he treated Wink left bad taste in their mouth. That is pure speculation. But I think what is less pure speculation is the fact that for a lot of these guys, they didn't want to come in and essentially be like, am I only going to be here for 1 year? Is that all I'm going to be given? Because if we have a bad 2024, which the Giants then did have, is like everybody on the chopping block here. Like the fact that these guys came back this year was a surprise to a lot of people. And now, like, I still think that they should have got rid of Bowen in the offseason, but that was never, it just never seemed realistic. It didn't seem realistic that they were going to get rid of a guy and try and implement a new scheme in what bare minimum now is the final year of their contracts. Like, I don't think they're going to be fired after this year. I just think they're not going to be brought back. I'm pretty sure they only signed 4-year deals, and we're coming up on the end of the 4th year here. So it's a lot of kind of just being stuck. And then in regards to like Dable, yeah, you finally got a guy that you seem to like in Russ, and you still can't call a good red zone offense. Now, I don't know if that's because they just have realized that the interior of this offensive line is maybe the worst in football, at least in run blocking. But I don't know what it is, but we still struggled in the red zone there. And it took us running like trick plays with 4 people in the backfield, including Jackson Dart at quarterback, to get anything really going there, it felt like, in the red zone towards the end. But you look at that score, it wasn't because the Giants, were just having like these long, incredibly efficient drives. The Cowboys ran way more plays than we did. I'm trying to find the exact number here. Yeah, the Cowboys ran 3 plays. We had just 65. The Cowboys had 32 first downs. We had 22. The Cowboys had 5 more minutes time of possession. And that's because when we scored, it was mostly just off of that Russ Moonball. And that's not going to be there like that every week. The truth is, this Cowboys defense isn't very good. So I don't know what the real Giants are right now. Is it what we saw week 1? Is it what we saw week 2? I'm hoping it's at least a healthy middle where, we're about to go up against a Chiefs team whose defense is pretty solid. It's not elite. But this is a Chiefs defense that did well for the most part, in shutting down the Eagles. And we know how much talent they have. We know what that offensive line is, especially compared to ours. So when we get to this game on Sunday night, I have no idea what to expect from this team.
Even though I'm trying to keep it positive, and I'm here to applaud Russ and say that man balled out.
Oh, he absolutely did.
450 yards is definitely a lot. But the long bomb, especially with Malik, the 48-yard strike, that was fantastic to get that lead. We just couldn't protect it. So he did his part. I think there's some numbers that I wrote down somewhere. But he was 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and now 1 interception, 123 pass rating. I'm okay with it. The interception, nobody wants to see that, especially at that part of the game. But no, I'm not going to sit here. He answered the call. What happens in this game coming up with the Chiefs, I have no idea what's going to happen. I would like to believe that we're going to keep the momentum going with what we've been doing and continue to keep doing that. I believe that we can, with the cornerback that we're going to be facing, I think that we can do some of those same things in those spots. But all that soft defense stuff, if Bowen is still trying to pull that and he's not adjusting, we're going to have some problems out there Sunday night for sure. And I don't want to even sleep on the Chargers or on Philly, Denver, and San Fran leading into week 9. We got some guys that have the potential to knock us off, and we could be out here, without a W. So what happened Sunday was a great start. I'm encouraged by it because honestly, that's best case scenario. We talked about that in the preseason. If Russ goes and balls out, that's best case scenario for us. We want Dart to have the timing he needs, and we're going to be able to have these downfield throws that we didn't have it probably almost at all last year. I can't even recall the year before that. I kind of just have Giants amnesias. I can't even tell you that happened then either. I don't remember that. I'm totally blanked out on that year. But that hasn't been happening. But we have to step our game up because the Chiefs are probably going to be a little bit ticked off by how they got knocked off on Sunday. And we can't come out here playing games. So I got a lot of questions. I got questions about Tyrone Tracy. What's going on here? 84 rush yards to Dallas's 135. What's going on?
It's the offensive line.
Last week, Russ was the leading rusher, and you know good and well that's not ideally what you want. Come on.
The Giants right now, I think, are averaging less than 3.5 yards a carry with players not named Russell Wilson.
That ain't working against KC.
No, they have a very stout defensive line. It's going to be very interesting to me to watch Marcus Bowe out there when instead of guys like, Sam Williams, Dorrance Armstrong, whoever Dallas had in rotation there, and instead is going to be going up against Charles Omenihu, Chris Jones. I don't know if they're going to send guys like Leo Chanel. The name eludes me right now. He's actually one of their bigger name edge rushers there in Kansas City.
Armstrong is in Washington, man. Remember we talked about how he was going to be injured.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
He's on the Commanders. I don't remember who Dallas had because they seem to be a lot of new faces of things. I don't even know who's out there, but yeah, we can't.
Would it be George Karlaftis is the guy in Kansas City who I was thinking of. You got Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, Chris Jones, Omar Norman Lott, Derek Nandi. You got a bunch of guys like that who
Karlaftis and Jones alone. That's those guys. You hadn't even named everybody else. You hadn't even named
right now, and this might be because of who they were going up against. The Chiefs' biggest weakness defensively is that they haven't been able to really generate pressure unless they send an all-out blitz. And Spags is one of the best defensive coordinators. He's going to be able to draw stuff up. But they do not have the ability to just send for and get pressure consistently. Now, granted, they've gone up against the Chargers, who look like they have one of the better offensive lines. And then they went up against Philly, who has maybe the best offensive line. So
I don't like Spags. I don't like Spags. Like our chances against Spags, period.
So
I respect that man a lot.
It is going to be very interesting to see, just what can happen in terms of what Giants team are we getting? That is the big question, because it's uncertain right now if Xavier Worthy is going to come back. There is some speculation that he could be back for week 3. But we know that Kansas City doesn't have great weapons. Travis Kelce looks old. Their best guy is, I don't know, is it Juju? Is it Hollywood Brown? I don't know
as far as targets, it's Hollywood Brown. As far as targets go. As far as efficiency with those targets,
probably Juju right now.
Well, going just using 1 week as a sample size, it's still Hollywood Brown. But Juju's in the mix here with this one. So they just
They like
long
going deep
term.
with Tyquan Thornton.
That's somebody to be concerned about. And honestly, I'd love for us to get into this. I don't have any stats in front of me, but I'd love to talk about our defense before we get out of here. Because when I look at the guys you just named, it's not their names, it's just what they do. With Thornton and Juju and if Worthy's out there and Hollywood Brown, could you imagine all four of them out there? What's going to be going on? Because I haven't heard too many good things about Paulson Adebo right, so far. And it's like to be able to man against Worthy, somebody with that kind of top speed. I don't think he even wants that life. But so I'm concerned about how we've been looking out there. I saw Banks make a couple of plays, which is fine. We'd have to see any non-head turning. So if it happened, I didn't see it, so that's good. I didn't blow a gasket.
Banks was not good, in my opinion.
He made a couple plays.
There were you mentioned earlier that you thought the tackling was much improved. I thought it was still very hit and miss, especially when it like that Javonte Williams touchdown run. There were a bunch of missed tackles. There were situations late in the fourth quarter where I think we had him like 2nd and 19 and they just went to the halfback draw and we could have had him like gain of like 3 and instead he gained 12 because he was able to bounce off of tackles. There were some things there that I did think were better. And I do think, again, not trying to blame the refs, but I do think a lot of the Dallas success came from dumb penalties by the Giants that helped them with field position, gave them first downs, all that, sucky stuff for us, but, good for them. But one of the things that Shane Bowen has done is that he's just been playing our safeties so deep. Like Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin haven't really been able to make any plays because they're not near the play. Bowen seems to
have the soft defensive scheme that I was talking about. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, like Bowen seems to really like this idea of not giving up the big play at the expense of giving up the medium play. And we saw that all game against Washington. We saw that really rear its ugly head at the very end against Dallas in particular. And like he just seems to be so adverse to just really trusting this defense that he has. He's got a Lamborghini here. He's got these amazing pieces, especially in the front four. Like Kayvon looks great this year. He's been one of our best players. Brian Burns is playing like an all-pro. Dexter Lawrence, he isn't stuffing the stat sheet, but his pass rush win rate is still one of the top in the league. He's been credited with one of the top in the league in terms of run stops. Abdul Carter is winning his reps. He hasn't been able to get home quite yet. Like the guys are there. The pieces are there, but we're not calling like these stunts. Everything is just straight up beat the man in front of you. He's just not calling a good defense. It's why, like, when and I think I mentioned this last week, or you definitely mentioned it, and I've tagged you in some stuff. We've had our conversations with Tana and Nick Filato and, some of those guys on Twitter, just the thought process to me when you mentioned this, like, what if Brian Flores was the head coach with this defense? I'm salivating at the thought just because, like, forget even getting a guy of Flores' caliber. What could a good defensive coordinator do with the pieces we have here?
You got to use oh, man, this is so, I hate to say this because it makes it seem like I'm some elitist fan or I feel like I know better than coaches. So I preface that by saying that's not what I think. Please don't try to come for me. All I'm saying is that when Paulson Adebo came over and Javon Holland came over, I know what they were good at because I followed their careers. I know what they were doing. They both have what's considered elite man-to-man coverage skills. Mm-hmm. You got to let them do that then. Adebo is considered a ball hawk. You got to put him in a position to be able to do that. He's considered elite as a tackler as well. You can't do that. We got him playing way off the ball, away from where the action is. you can't see any of those skills. They basically are security guards out there. So you can't get the most out of them by having them play so far away from where the action is, from the middle of the field and what have you, worrying about the big play. These guys have the speed to catch up to some of the faster wide receivers if they have to, and make a play for the ball. But they're not getting a chance to do that. Like I said, they're out here playing security. And why are you defending the end zone? I see that if you were like, if your opponent was in the red zone, then I get that then. Protect the red zone. But not in those cases. I don't know what Bowen is doing. So I'm like, Flores, anybody that can play a confident defensive scheme, by all means, you are welcome to come. You're welcome. Please come. Please come. Please. We can use this right now. I mean, like this. The worst case scenario for me at the end of the season is that we haven't surpassed the win totals that we predicted, that we thought would happen. That's the worst thing, because then I have to be like, oh man, we have to hear it out here on these social media streets. But then on top of that, this elite defense who you made some investments in, sizable investments, I might add, guaranteed money that don't come back to you. It's in their pocket forever. That's fine. The players deserve what they deserve, but this is a big investment. And to not see them show themselves consistently to be that elite defense throughout the rest of the season, those would be tragedies to me. That didn't happen.
I'm getting to the point where I'm worried guys like Dex, Neighbors, all these guys are just going to be so frustrated they're going to want out of New York. It's going to be Odell all over again. There's just going to be this built-up resentment, animosity, because these guys, they want to win. They want to play into January. They don't want the season to be over before September's end.
I'm with you. That's premature, though. If Dayball comes back for another year, then it's time to be concerned about that situation happening. Because I feel like even in week one, you and I speculated about it. I think you more than I did, that their demeanor, body language was because of who was going to be at quarterback, and they were going to lose some of the edge that they had in the preseason. I'm not even against the idea of that. I think that Rush showed them that he still got something, because everybody seemed to be more hurt than they were lethargic or lackadaisical. They just were more hurt by the ending, because they had every chance to be in this game and to win it in regulation. It didn't happen. So I'm not ready to go that far yet, but I have some concerns about things like that too. But I feel like if they bring Dayball back, that's almost like saying, you know what? We don't really care about doing what's best for you. We want to do what we think is best. And those kind of organizations, they never work out, because the players are the ones that's out here putting it all on the line. And I just don't feel like there's too many scenarios where he can stay on his team for another year. I know we discussed that in the preseason, and we had different thoughts about that. We had little bullet points for the show and all that stuff. Put all them bullet points in the trash. I don't see any way that he comes back here. I don't see how it can happen. If we win 5 and whatever, I still don't see how we can do it.
The only way at this point, I think Dable and Shane come back is if they bench Russ, Jackson Dart comes in, he looks good, and they get to like let's say we're 0-4 going into that New Orleans game, and we bench Russ, Jackson Dart starts, and he looks really good, and we end up going like 7-6 the rest of the way, or 6-7, and we're respectable, we're competitive, the defense starts coming together a bit, and it is clear the vision is taking shape. That has been the biggest issue, I think, with Shane and Dable. They have preached this vision that they have. And to this point, we haven't seen any of it. We got that one miracle year in 22 probably,
Miracle,
not even
yes.
probably, looking back on it, very much benefited from a weak schedule. But since then, nothing that they've been preaching has come to fruition. And one of the biggest, I think, and even right now, one of my big issues is I think part of that is the sheer stubbornness of Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Their refusal to kind of admit when they're wrong. Not making Neal move to guard sooner. Jalen Hyatt is still on this. So we supposedly received calls about Jalen Hyatt where we could have gotten something for that. They turned that down. When we hear all offseason about this great connection between Hyatt and Wilson and how Hyatt's going to be a bigger part of his offense, he has recorded 0 snaps this year. Not 0 targets, not 0 catches, 0 snaps. He has not come out onto the field. Evan Neal has remained a healthy and active. And Joe Shane, instead of realizing, and one of the things that I liked almost about this offseason in the addition of Javon Holland in particular was that he's like, okay, we let McKinney go, and that was the wrong thing. I'm actually now going to allocate money to the safety position. But then again, there's this Hyatt and Neal are the two big ones, but we haven't thrown enough at the interior offensive line. We seemingly got a bit of a hit with Illuminor, who's nothing special, but he's solid. Greg Van Roten seems to have taken a step back from last year.
God, you hate that man. I don't know why you hate that man.
I don't hate Jermaine Illuminor in the slightest. I'm actually a very big fan of Jermaine Illuminor. I'm just not going to pretend he's this all-pro level guy. He's not Penei Sewell out there. He's not Penei Sewell. He is right now far and away our best offensive lineman. And now that, I've started seeing other people, I'm not, going.
Let that man live.
I am going to take a little bit of credit for this one. Yeah, but all of a sudden, I've seen all these people coming out of the woodwork talking about, when Andrew Thomas comes back, the offensive line should be Thomas, Runyon, GVR, Illuminor, Bo. And I was saying that well before week 1. I said it on this podcast before week 1, mostly as a joke because that's pretty Madden and I didn't think it was going to happen. At this point, with what we've seen from this offensive line, when Thomas comes back, Bo better be starting somewhere. I don't know if it's at guard. I would prefer they keep him at tackle because that's what we've seen from him. And I know Jermaine Illuminor is going to want that tackle money to come this offseason. But, man, kick him inside a guard. Be like, dude, we need you at guard. We're moving your buddy over, one spot to center. Because I think that is the best possible front five we could have. I don't JMS had a couple good reps against Dallas. He has not put together great tape overall this year. And if I was in charge of the Giants and we have a losing record come whatever the trade deadline is, I'm shopping Bobby Okereke. I'm shopping Evan Neal. I'm shopping Jalen Hyatt. And I know this isn't going to be really popular right now. I'm shopping Wan'Dale Robinson. I want to see how much draft capital I can get for all these guys. I'm fielding calls for Devin Singletary. I want to see how much draft capital I can get. And then pretty much every single pick I am making is interior offensive line, linebacker, and a wide receiver. That is how I'm approaching this offseason.
Yeah, well, part of that's not a stretch, man, because our draft situation this year is not a good situation that we're in. No comps. We got to do a whole bunch of stuff. So this guy don't even add to that list of people I'd be shopping. There's some other ones that I would add to it too, because at this point, I think we have to. We have to reface this entire team. That's why I don't know how. I know we had some talks about the coaching staff, and you alluded to it. Some discussions we had on Twitter. I'm like, are we still doing that? I think we still have to consider that, right? Cleaning the house on this coaching staff. I mean, this is what's going on right now. It's not working. And what it reminds me of, you referenced it earlier in the show, is kind of 2022. It was probably one of the worst things, and you said this, I think it was you that said this, that it's one of the worst things that happened to our team because it made us forget about, and this is my explanation of that, or my reasoning for that, is because it made us forget about all the stuff that needed to be changed. We felt like we didn't have to change it anymore because look, you won and you got a playoff win too. Oh, wow. Yes, but it was like, yeah, but we're ignoring all the chip paint and all the holes in the walls, and we know we got to fix that stuff. But this playoff win made us feel so good about ourselves that we can do the impossible, and we just ignored it and kept on moving. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that this time. That's why even if there is your scenario about going 6-7, something like that, after 0-4 start, whatever it was you were saying, we can't ignore what we've been seeing with the coaching staff. Not just Shane Bowen, just other stuff too. I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure that Daboll's even if he's untouchable in this situation because you brought this guy in here, and this guy's getting killed on social media. You make me miss, you know what? Oh, that's just fans talking. Who cares? But he's getting killed by Giants analysts and Giants reporters and Giant journalists when they're in the conference rooms. Who do you think? Who do you think they're talking about? They're talking about Shane Bowen and Daboll and Mara and Shane. They're going to hear Shane Bowen's name so much. It's going to be in their dream world. So it's like he's tied to that man. You brought that man in here. So I don't know how he can avoid this. And I feel like at this point we might just need a cleansing on this team. I think it's time for it. We got about $85 million in guaranteed money stuck in some guys that honestly 2 out of the 5 of them are actually guys you might want to keep. The other 3 guys are like, they're basically depth and not a whole lot more than that, and they're getting bankrolled here. Might be time for a cleansing, not just with the head coach, but also with some of the position coaches and those guys you named, plus a few more. We need to start shopping these guys and getting some draft capital and try to build this team like a winning team. The only question I have is who's going to help them do that? Because it'd be weird if Daboll's gone, but Shane is still there. And do you trust Shane to man that ship? I mean, this is the guy that's attached to Saquon Barkley forever. So it's like, do you trust him to man the reins on a I'll stop sort of calling it a rebuild because we have a quarterback, so I can't really call it a legit rebuild. I'll just call it a reshuffling, if you will. A remodeling, if you will. You trust Shane to do that? I have some concerns and challenges with that. But
my big concern is if/when they do move off of Shane and Daboll, Mara's just like, well, I tried going outside the family.
You said that last week, and I don't want to hear it now either.
Yeah, so, but I don't want to get into that until it truly feels inevitable. So I kind of want to just
we're not there yet.
Yeah, I want to end.
You know, you're not going to bring Joe Judge back in here. At least we know that Mara, whoever I mean, let's find out before you go that route. Let's find out who Mara actually likes first before you go that route. Because I know that Joe Judge can't come back. I'm fine with that. I know what's your boy or Dave Gettleman's not coming back, so I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. Who does he like? Let's talk about that. Maybe somebody that we might like too. But those guys definitely there's a no return policy on those 2 fellas. They can't come back in here. Matter of fact, I don't think Daboll can either when he's out. So
right now, right now, I want to end with how I think we can beat the Chiefs, and it's going to come down to 2 things. I think it's going to come down to 2 things. The first is being more consistent in our pass rush. I think I saw a stat that said Dex, Kayvon, Burns, and Carter were only played together for like 8% of defensive snaps against the Cowboys. And they had success in those snaps. I think we're going to need a bit more of that. Right now, the Chiefs are really struggling to run the ball themselves. It's pretty much all on Mahomes. So we're going to need to continue to disrupt him. He clearly still feels uncomfortable in the pocket. Their rookie left tackle, Josh Simmons, has been solid so far this year. I personally don't think he's met anybody quite like Brian Burns yet. So I want to exploit that matchup. I want to continue to make Mahomes feel uncomfortable in the pocket, force him to rush his throws. His deep ball hasn't been quite as accurate as it has in years past. And I think a big part of that is his lack of comfort that he's currently playing with, this trust, this comfort with his offensive line. And the second thing, continue to work the deep ball. If Russ like Mahomes, clearly with Hudson there, like the difference in how long he was willing to stay in the pocket for, how long he was willing to just load up and rip it deep, was drastically different when he had Bo there rather than Hudson. And again, it is going to be I think it's going to be very prevalent early on, just how good Bo is on that left side, going up against guys that real and solid edge rushers. Certainly much better than anything he faced in Dallas. So that is going to have to continue there, because I think if Russ gets comfortable, he showed that it's clearly still there. And I think we can beat the Chiefs in the air. The Chargers were able to do it, and while Russ clearly isn't Herbert, I think we've got, at the very least, we certainly have the best wide receiver between us and the Chargers. And Slayton showed that he could beat a guy, get past him real quick, hit him deep. Wandale showed, you hit me up the seam, I can make something happen. There is a formula here. It just has to be the trenches, man. It's a cop-out answer, but if we're able to disrupt their quarterback and able to keep ours on his feet, that's how we win this game. It's not going to come down to who can run the ball better, because neither team right now can run the ball.
All right. Maybe I'll step into this rabbit hole too. I think for me, making Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable is something that I think we should have no problem doing. I see some gaps in their running game. Pacheco is not where he was. So I think we have opportunities there, provided that we don't let big plays get past us and that we are effective in the tackling game. I'm concerned about our linebacker situation. We got like 3 guys that are out now.
Mm-hmm.
So they got some guys in, but I don't know them. I think 2 guys got signed today. I don't know who they are and what they can do. So I'm hopeful. But that linebacker thing is critical against this particular team, because Mahomes loves to work the middle of the field. And we need to have guys that are ready for that, because he's not trying to – he throws deep passes when he has to. He loves working the middle with guys like Kelsey. He loves working the middle with guys like Juju. He just loves doing that. It's a tendency. He helping him to not be comfortable doing that is something that we can do if we have solid linebacker players. Like you said, the trenches. We're supposed to have an elite defense. That's what we've been hearing all this time. This is a game where we have to show it. With the pass rush, like you said, with the consistency in that, with the work in the trenches, not letting us get pushed around by these guys. If we do that, I think we can definitely be in this game and potentially come out with a W. Is it something I'm going to bet on? No, but I think we can do that. What I saw last week with the long ball, I have zero confidence in the cornerbacks in the secondary of KC. Zero. If they hurt us, that means that we are really, really in the abysmal category. So we should guys like Malik and Wandale alone, those 2 guys are essentially, and we see that on a Giants team that has sucked for the past several years. These guys are 1,000-yard receivers. We've already seen it. We've seen them do that. And not including Slayton, and I can't include Hyatt here. I'm blanking out on somebody else. But these guys here, man, if we spread the ball around like Russ was doing, we can definitely come out with a win and shock the world and beat the Chiefs. But will it happen? I have no idea what's going to happen. But I'm pretty excited about this. So, yeah, we can kind of just close up with Sunday Night Football, man. So are you ready to pick the Giants to win this game against the Chiefs? Or are you going to say this is what these are the keys, but you never really
Those are
made
the
that call.
keys. I ain't picking them. They don't deserve it. I love
Copy that.
this team more than anything. I mean, Jesus, man, I got Eli right there over my shoulder every time we record.
Copy that.
But they have not earned any kind of benefit of the doubt. They have not earned me picking them. If you want to pick them to like cover the spread, which is Chiefs 5.5 or whatever right now, you can go and do that if that's your thing. But I ain't picking them to win.
No, I'm gonna stay out of that. First off, I'm not really in the gambling business, so I'm gonna just leave that one out there. But we just talked about what we thought could happen. We'll end it right there, man. But week 2 was a wild ride. We got to see some glimpses of what our beloved team could be. Now we going head against former world champion Chiefs. We got to see them do what could be the impossible. Mike Kafka's back there. What does he know? What does he remember? What can he capitalize on? He might be an X factor in this. So we'll see what happens, man. But besides that, man, fantastic to talk Giants with you. It wasn't always pleasant with what we seen last week, but the season's still young, man. We're just 0-2. We're not out of it yet, man.
We're not out of it yet. Technically speaking, we have not been mathematically eliminated.
Okay, Jess. I'm going to play music now.